All right, we're going to start us off. Send Tommy to the green room.
Styling, that's just the way that I feel. Sunshine beaming off the tips of my heels. Gotta say, hey, it's a brand new day. Love, loving the way that I feel. Styling, that's the way I wanna reveal. Trouble, that's just a dent in the road. Remember the love inside that we hold. Put those sorrows and worries away, because we're styling today. Styling, that's the way I wanna portray. When the bells of love start chiming, everybody knows you're shining. Styling, the way I happen to feel. Ooh, sunshine beaming off the tips of my heels. Gotta say, hey, it's a brand new day. Love the way that I feel. Styling, that's the way I wanna reveal. Come on, everybody. When the bells of love start chiming, everybody knows you're shining. We're styling, yeah. Everybody's feeling alright.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and pets of all ages, welcome to Purdy Amazing People, live from beautiful Southern California with our host, Brigitte Purdy, award-winning blues artist, radio host, and girl about town. And today, Brigitte welcomes guitar extraordinaire, Mr. Tommy Castro. Welcome to the show, Brigitte Purdy.
Hey, everybody. I am so absolutely thrilled. We have one of the most phenomenal artists on board with us today, Mr. Tommy Castro. So please drop by and show him some major, major love. He's been doing this for 30 years. He's about to celebrate his 30th anniversary. Geez, what can I say? So if you kindly push the love button and share the love and have people come on board, please. And before we get started, I want to share something with you guys. A friend of mine by the name of Manuel Duran sent me something amazing in the mail. And so he's a true artist. And what he does is he takes harmonicas and he makes jewelry out of them. And I'm trying not to cry every show, but I'm about to cry again. And this is a Marine band, and I believe it's from like the 1930s. And he made me this bracelet in honor of my dear friend Manny, who passed away, Manny Gastelum, who I was the co-host on KOCI with. And so I want to thank Manuel Duran for making this for me as a tribute to my dear friend, and I will wear it proudly. Thank you. Also, real quickly, I want to give a shout out to Alana Katz. Yes, Alana Katz sent me this, and she was on our show not too long ago. And let's see what she sent me. Oh, okay, here's a letter. And it says, Brigitte, thank you so much for having me a guest on your super cool show. Can't wait to see you again, hopefully at the BMAs. I'm gonna try my hardest to make it down to the BMAs, and hope to see you again. Take good care of yourself. What a beautiful, sweet letter. And let's see what else Alana sent. Let's see. Oh, look at a little cat with fiddle. Alana was on here and she plays the blues fiddle. I hope some of you can remember her. If not, you can go down to my page and check her out. Oh, this is so super cool. She made some body balm, and it has beeswax and coconut oil. Whoops, I always get the camera this way. There we go. And so thank you, Alana. Kisses. That is so sweet. And cat's sweet. I'm going to smell it real quick. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, that smells really good. Thank you, Alana. That was really sweet and thoughtful. So without further ado, the moment that you've all been waiting for. Woohoo! Mr. Tommy Castro. And the crowd goes wild. Hi, Tommy.
That's a really great crowd you have there, by the way.
I know, they're just going wild. Well, I will have to say, Robert says, hey there. So anyways, we have friends dropping by and saying hi. We have friends dropping by. How are you doing, Robert? He said he's from Los Angeles.
All
and
right.
you want to share where you are, Tommy?
Oh, from Buffalo. Wow.
Yeah.
I'll be shuffling off to Buffalo in March, I think it is.
Cool.
Bringing Deanna Bogart with me. So that should be
Awesome.
pretty cool.
And Kathy dropped by and she said hello. She's from Claremont, California.
Claremont. Yeah, right down here in Southern Cal, right?
Southern Cal. Southern Cal. So all of you, Kyle Diebler said, let's see, can you read that, Tommy? I need bifocals.
Yeah, actually, it's like, well,
I need some bifocals here. Can you?
I'm trying to avoid wearing my readers, you know.
Okay.
Got some pretty cool readers, though. They're shaped like Ray-Bans.
Oh, awesome. Here, let's see. Let me pop on here and see. I have to put it up on my big screen right by me so we can see what Kyle said. Kyle, well, I'm going to say hi to Kyle. I know Kyle is down in Colorado. And he said, you got Tommy there. Yeah. And then also, you guys all please drop by in the comments and wish Randy McDonald a happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Randy's having a very happy birthday because during the pandemic, they shut down Australia, and his girlfriend, who he's crazy about, lives in Australia. And they were having a long distance relationship as it was, but they would travel back and forth and maybe go on the blues cruise together and stuff like that. It was working out all right, but then the pandemic came along and shut everything down. And man, those two waited all this time, and he finally got a flight to Australia the day that they opened.
Oh, cool!
Travelers from the U.S. He flew in to Sydney, I guess, at 6 a.m. on the day that they opened. So pretty cool.
Wow, that is a great birthday present. Yeah. You know, what not better to be stuck with the one that you love.
Yeah.
My mom said
time before we have to get back at it on here, though.
Yeah. My mom said hello also, Tommy. So if you could say hi to my mom. She's excited that I'm having you on.
Oh,
Yeah. So you just dropped a new album entitled A Blues Man Came to Town. Can you tell us about that?
well, it was time for a new record. It was, I've been thinking about making this album before the pandemic, and so I was kind of kicking ideas around for what I would do next, long story short, the idea came up of has anybody ever done a blues opera? And I
Mm.
thought, wow, that's a little, it's a little strange for our genre to think about something like that. But then I thought about it some more, and I thought, well, wait a minute. I've always enjoyed a really good rock opera. The last one that I remember I thought was an amazing album was Green Day's American Idiot. Fantastic record, um, and I thought to myself, why not? Why not do an album with basically just tells a story. All the songs, go together and to tell a story. And I started thinking about that, but I wasn't completely committed to it yet because I wasn't sure if I was, getting too far out there, which I have been known to do. And so I call up Bruce Iglauer at Alligator Records, and he's our record label president, and he's the first guy who's going to say no to a thing like that. So I thought I'd start there, and he didn't think it was a bad idea. The only thing he told me was, if you're going to do something like that, make sure that every song stands on its own. So if anybody hears the song without the rest of the story, it'll still make sense. And
That's what I love about this album is the storytelling. I mean, this is one of my favorite albums. And I love the old schoolness of it. I didn't know that you wanted to make a sort of an opera, a blues opera. I didn't know that. So thank you for sharing that. And so it reminds me of back in the day of the old school albums, the rock albums that told stories when one song just ran into the next and to the next and to the next. And I guess why this one's so close to my heart is because it's so relatable to me as an artist. When you go from A Blues Man Came into Town, when I saw Buddy Guy, I snuck into the coach house, and I was 18 years old, and that man could not shake me off of his leg when he came through that audience with his wireless, and I was totally struck. And that's what it was. A blues man came to town. Of course, and then the song "The Hustle." Can you talk about that funky groove? I mean, there's not only the storytelling in this album, but the way these songs are constructed within the storytelling. Because when I write, I think about, okay, not just the storytelling, but the groove has to fit that story. So The Hustle's got that funky, gritty, old kind of soul throwback. So can you share a little bit about The Hustle?
yeah, well, the interesting thing about that song is I was coming down to Southern California. Yeah, everything is either before or after or during the pandemic now. I'm sorry, just my
It's
brain
okay.
kind of,
I'm there with you.
kind of remembers things. And so I think it was before the pandemic, and I had already thought about doing this concept album, and I was going down to Southern California. I can't remember what I was going down here for, to be honest with you. Might have been some shows. I imagine that was it. I just remember that I was going to have some time off. I had a couple of days, had some time, and I called my friend Terry Wilson, he was the husband of Teresa James.
Okay. Yeah,
Terry,
she's amazing.
they're both amazing, and it's an amazing family of talent. It's a long story, but I've known them all for quite a long time, and Terry and I have written together in the past, and so he's just one of my go-to guys when I want to just get a good song started. I'll go down there and see what he's got, and for an idea, and sometimes we'll work on an idea of mine, and but anyways, went to his house. That's what we usually do. We get together, we hang out, have a cup of coffee, catch up on life, talk about our kids, and then he had this idea for a song completely unrelated to this project. He thought it would be called, he had an idea for something he would call Spread Your Hustle.
Okay.
Spread Your Hustle. And I was like, well, I'm not real sure about Spread Your Hustle. I like the hustle part of it. But then he kept on wanting it to be about that. And so we wrote a little bit together, and I went home and I wrote some more. And then and we didn't have a groove, or we didn't have an idea for the music at all. We were just spitballing lyrics back and forth. And so I started coming up with some lines, and started coming up with some ideas for that. And then I picked up my guitar and started playing, Jimmy Nolan, James Brown funk on it. And I started singing, and kind of singing the way that song went. And I, pieced that together, and with him. And then it got to when we got in the studio with Tom Hambridge, with a gang of Nashville players that he works with, that all of that just kind of fell together pretty naturally. And my favorite part is the guitar part. There's a second guitar part that plays low notes on the bottom strings. It's Rob McNally. He just came up with that part. He just started playing it, and I went, "That's it."
You know it when you hear it. You know it when you hear it.
So the song's about, what it's saying is, you got to hustle. You can't hustle the same corner all the time.
That's very true. That's very true.
And that, and that's why there's a line there that says, if you only see a few drops of rain, put out your bucket just the same. Put one here, put one there. You can wet your beak anywhere. It's just kind of that was the idea of it.
And that's a great philosophy within the industry, and that would be something that I would share with an artist coming up, or any artist, is that, there's make friends with different circles, not only can it expand your new musical experiences, but also it introduces you, and you can make new connections. And so those two things. And when I wanted to grow, even though it's scary, you got to put yourself in the level up. If you throw yourself in the ring with the level up, you will rise to the occasion, because you got to go home and you got to stay on top of your game. You got to stay ready.
That's
so
very well. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's interesting that you would think of that consciously. I wound up in situations that I felt like were a little over my head at times, and I just I'm going to sink or swim. So I did my best, and I always managed to hang on. But I felt like, and I still do sometimes, like I'm hanging on for dear life.
I think anybody in this industry who is in touch with their gift and wants to grow realizes that in order to grow, you have to you have to push yourself, and there's a fear level within that. But I think that fear is what keeps people creative, and it keeps them also humble at the same time. If you think you've already arrived and have nowhere to grow, then you're going to plateau.
Yeah. You got to keep and on the longer, that's my story lately. Is I don't think I ever expected to be doing this 30 years later. I think I wanted to be B.B. King. I wanted to be like John Lee Hooker and spend the rest of my life playing blues. But I wasn't, there was a part of me that didn't really think it was all going to work out so well. but I was going to write it out as long as I could and take advantage of whatever was available to me at the time, and just pulled everything I had going for me together and worked my ass off, and managed to stay afloat. And here I am. It's 30 years later, and it gets harder. It gets harder because you've already done a lot of stuff. You've written a lot of songs. You've tried a lot of ideas out. You've did it this way and that way, and I have different size bands and different instrumentation and different. There's always the main ingredients. It's always blues first, and all the different types of blues. You can't say blues because blues is what is it? It's Texas, it's Chicago, it's New Orleans,
Sure.
and every part of the country's got its own flavor. Oakland, California, right across the bridge from San Francisco, the Bay Area where I came up. Everybody's got a different style and a different sound. It's American roots music, but it's played all over the world. And, but it's blues with all of those things. And then it's soul music and, the greasy soul music that came out of Memphis in the 60s mainly. And there's rock and roll. We all grew up on rock and roll. That was the first music I remember hearing was rock and roll music,
Yeah.
And so all of those things are what I like and what are in me. And when I I combine all of those things, and so then you have to create a new record, and then you have to make another new record. Yeah, I say you have to. Of course, it's necessary if you want to remain relevant, in this business, and you want to keep your job. I just, I have this thing I like to eat and sleep indoors, and so I work hard, and I want to keep being relevant so that we could keep getting gigs and we could keep touring like we do, and so you have to make that next record if you're going to do that. And I enjoy the process. I love it. I do get a little stressed out when I know it's time for a new project, and I'm gonna have to come up with it again. And I don't always, part of me knows that I can. I've done it before. I can do it again. There's another part of me going, maybe you've run out of ideas.
Obviously you have the secret sauce because, I have a friend here in LA. Her name is Lori, and she's a devout Tommy Castro fan. She messaged me a couple of times saying, I'm going to drop in. I want to say hi to Tommy. I want to say hi to Tommy. So 30 years. Oh my gosh. I try not to cry on this show, but when I think about being in the business for 30 years and those fans who have followed you from day one and who have loved your music and you have inspired them and touched their lives, I say, wow, well done. I say, well done, man. And so you are going to be celebrating your 30th year anniversary. And what are your plans for that?
Well, Randy came up with the idea. He says, it's going to be 30 years next year. That's this year. The idea came up last year, but he said it's going to be about 30 years. And the new album is still new, and we've got a lot of juice behind that. But I think we should probably tout our next year's touring as our 30th anniversary tour. And I thought that's a damn good idea. That's a pretty big milestone. We might as well celebrate it, And then he went and I'll show you something.
Okay. Hi, Rose Duffy. I want to say hi to you. Thank you guys for dropping by. If you could share this feed, that would be really helpful. Then, more people can check out what's happening here.
So he had this made for me from a strap maker in San Diego, I guess. Anyway, it says TC times 3. Well, it's like 3. He didn't want it to say, Roman numeral X 3 times. didn't want it to
Sure.
say triple X.
Yeah, that's cool. Wow.
So X times 3, and it's 30 years. And so what we plan to do is dig out songs from the past.
Mhm.
We're going to have, for a good portion of our anniversary tour, will be Deanna Bogart will be joining me, my partner in life, and
That is so cool.
who's who I live down here in Palm Springs with. That's the reason I moved down here.
Yeah.
She's the reason I came down here. And we're just having a wonderful time, getting together late in life. And it's we've been friends for 20 years, maybe more.
Mhm.
We used to do these legendary rhythm and blues review shows together, and so we became friends. All these years we've been friends. And anyway, this happened, and we decided, a lot of people. We have this our new band. That's the way it's configured is the Painkillers. It's a 4-piece band with keyboards, bass, drums, keyboards, and me. I mean, before that, the original band was bass, drums, and saxophone. Keith Crossan, and we had no keyboards and only one horn, and we created a sound with that instrumentation that was a little bit different than what everybody else was doing. And because I love soul music so much and R&B and stuff like that, I liked having the saxophone in the band, and then we would work together and create. I'd play rhythm guitar with the saxophone and sometimes he was adding thickness to my chords, and sometimes I'm adding notes, so it sounded a little bit like a horn section.
That's awesome. That makes the sound really fat.
Yeah, so it made it sound like he would play horn parts like a section part, and I would play it with him with chords on the guitar. So between the two of us, we had a lot of space covered, and it was sounded fat and full with just that 4-piece band. But over the years, things changed, and we added a trumpet player after a while, and Tom Poole, and then we added a keyboard player. Back then it was Tony Stead, and then and we had that big band with 6 pieces for a long time and several records. And then I brought it back down to this Painkiller. So when we go out on this tour, we're going to try to do a little bit of everything that we did in the last 30 years. And Deanna will be there to play saxophone on those songs because the sax is missing on some of those songs.
Sure.
And we'll also be featuring her for a set of her songs.
Oh, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, because we typically go out these days in a package. We did the TNT tour with Tinsley Ellis a couple of times. We had a tour with Marsha Ball last fall, and we've done a similar thing with Mike Zito, and so that's the way we like to do it now. We like to package up with another act, and then we can play a little bit better venues.
That's a wise model or choice decision. I could see how that can work. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I remember we'd travel around the country, and we would take whatever the blues gig is in that town. We did that gig, and sometimes it was blues is more popular in some areas, and you play a small theater or something like that, and sometimes it would just be a bar or a club along the way, And we were always striving to move up to the next level of venues, and when we package up, especially when we package up with other alligator artists, that really works well. And we move right up into another, level of venue. And then the whole tour is like that now, And so we kind of want our big tours from now on to be a part of a package. And I thought, what a great idea to take Deanna along, because, we could back her up. They would be working for years. So we don't really need to bring her band into the picture for this time, which she's going to make a record. She's working on one right now in New Orleans with some friends down there and a producer down there at Dockside Studios, and they're going to finish her album in the next couple of months. And then she'll be going out on her own and probably with her band. But for right now, this is a really good plan. Works for her, works for us. It makes sense for the 30th anniversary tour.
Sure.
You
And I
know,
know the fans are going to love it. The fans are just going to go wild. Now, I have another question. So, a blues man came to town, Tommy. Okay. I shared my story about Buddy Guy.
okay.
Buddy, I love you, Buddy Guy. How were you? Buddy, you're coming to town. I'm coming to your show March 11th. I shouldn't be saying that, but I'm coming to see Buddy. So how did you get struck by the blues, or how did you start playing? Share some of that with us.
Well, when I was a kid, my older brother, was 6 years older than me. So he had a record player, was playing rock and roll music in the house all the time. And I loved it. As soon as he would leave the house, I would take his stack of 45s and I'd put them on in our, we shared a room at the time, and I'd put on his records and dance around in to Twist and Shout by the Beatles, or all kinds of just great rock and roll stuff, early James Brown stuff. He always had the latest hit record on 45, and so I got exposed to music. He eventually started playing guitar in bands and doing just cover rock and roll music, and his band was pretty popular around town, and they would play high school dances and various types of gigs, and everything. And then they would rehearse at my mother's house, and so I got to watch people play live music, and I just thought it was the most amazing thing. So whenever he would leave the house, I'd pick up his guitar and I would play on it. Eventually, he caught me doing that and said, "Look here, I'll show you something on the guitar if you shine my shoes." And I said, "Oh, okay." And then, next day he's going, "Look, I'll show you a couple more things on the guitar if you go wash my car." and it went like that. And I learned a lot doing chores for him. And then I found some friends of my own age, and we were listening to FM radio, which was kind of new at the time. We found it, and you would hear FM radio was different in those days. There were no commercials. They didn't have any sponsors. And could play whatever they wanted for as long as they wanted. And you could hear Albert King Blues Power, 18 minutes long, being played on the radio, or Bacon by Taj Mahal, the whole thing. And I would just groove, and everything I heard that was blues music, and I didn't even know it was blues. I just knew what it sounded like, that, and I liked it. And when I heard Elvin Bishop's group, man, that was the one that I probably, fired me up the most. The Elvin Bishop group, because it would come through town and I'd catch him live sometimes. Back in the day when he had Joe Baker on vocals and Terry Hank and Daddy Ray on saxophones and Fly Brooks on bass. It was really an amazing group, and the energy just knocked me out, and what was he doing? He was doing blues and R&B and soul music and combining those things. And anyway, so there wasn't any one blues man that came to town like in this story. For me, it was just, finding out little by little, listening to the radio, hanging out with my friends. People would get a new record and we'd all spread it, share it around. We'd go over to a friend's house and hear the new album that he just bought, so we didn't all have to buy the same album.
I know.
One guy would get an album and we'd all listen to it,
I know, it's so funny because I started singing at a young age, and I had my first band in third grade, but I was doing a lot of classical and musical theater and some opera at the time. And a friend of mine who was my first guitarist, he came over with the Led Zeppelin album, and I had never heard rock and roll before. And so, so he put the Led Zeppelin album on, and I remember we're all just listening to it for the first time. And that's the whole thing about records. Some of your music is on vinyl also.
Yeah. The new album is on Coke bottle green vinyl.
Yeah, some of so my friend who was my very first guitarist in third grade, he plays for J-Lo now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we've stayed in touch and we've been friends all these years. And so those little moments of listening to music and hanging out, they were so important in in our musical growth. You know, it's like I'll never forget those times of dropping the needle on that certain spot on a record. So I'm glad that you have vinyl out. I would love to have some of my music on vinyl. I know there's lots of fans and young fans, my kids, they really dig vinyl. So it's a whole cool hip scene that's happening with the vinyl.
It's gotten really popular, and to the point where you really have to order them months in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So it used to be you'd need about 3 months to deliver a master to the label, and they like a 3 month lead time to
Mm-hmm.
get it pressed and plan out promotions in advance and get the songs and everything, get the music out to all the papers and the radio people, and it's there's a process. So about 90 days you had to deliver it before your release date. And now if you want to get vinyl on those release dates, you need like 5 months. So
Wow.
so mine came out a little late. The vinyl came a little behind the release.
Mm-hmm.
And we told everybody that. I said, look, we're putting out the album. You can pre-order it, but the vinyl's going to come a little later, and that's really cool because the reason for that is popularity.
Sure. And then also, like me, now that you've told me, I love this album so much. I'm going to buy the vinyl on this.
I'll get you a copy.
Thank
We're going to
you.
finally wind up. We'll be down at the end of this tour. We wind up in Southern California. I think we play the Coach House again, or
Okay.
one of those places, maybe.
Okay. Well, I'll come out if I'm in town. I will definitely come out. Okay. I love this album so much. And Andy, I think we've been chatting for so long. We need to play Tommy's song, "A Blues Man Came to Town." Please, Andy.
All he ever knew was a hard life on the farm, plowing in the fields, chopping wood behind the barn. Must be a better way to use these hands and arms. Heard about a roadhouse a mile outside of town, quitting time on Friday, laid that pitchfork down. Once he heard that guitar, man, it shook him to the ground. The blues man came to town, he felt the tug. Blues man came to town, he caught the bug. The boy breathed in that sound when a blues man came to town. Johnson, picking on his porch all day, had an old pawn shop guitar, and he taught that boy to play. The music filled his soul ever since that day. Blues man came to town, he felt the tug. A blues man came to town, he got the bug. The boy breathed in that sound when a blues man came to town. Mr. Johnson told him, if you want my advice, get the hell out of this town. Go, don't think about it twice. The young boy knew that old man was right. The blues man came to town. He felt the tug. The blues man came to town. Yeah, he caught the bug. The boy breathed in that sound. When a blues man came to town. The blues man came to town. He felt the tug. The blues man came to town. He caught the bug. The boy breathed in that sound. When a blues man came to town.
Woo! Hit the love button, people. You gotta hit that love button. Wow.
Hey, that's a good name for a song. I think that's a good title.
You know what? It's funny you say that because I've been thinking about writing a song entitled Hit the Love Button.
Yeah, well, I think that you should do that. You should do that.
Yeah.
And, that'll be a hit. That'll be a hit.
It's got to be funky. That's a funky song right there. Hit the love button. That's got a funky vibe.
So that was that little video was produced and edited by my son Skylar, who lives up there in Eugene, Oregon. And he came down to the Bay. We went out to Rancho Nicasio in Nicasio, California, in West Marin, and just kind of wandered around and shot video, and I played along, got a few shots on the bus, and then he went home and put it all together. It came out pretty good.
It's a great video.
Thank you. I think every album, it deserves to have at least one sort of semi-slick music video with it. I think personally, I like to see real live performances better than I like those things. But they do. There is something about them. It's a piece of art in itself. It's a work.
That's true. That's true.
It's on its own, and people enjoy it. I know when the time comes to do one of those things, I get stressed out about the work.
I gotta go to the video person myself.
We're teaching on this thing, and we got to come up with a concept and an idea.
I feel you on that. But it's another part of the storytelling. It's a whole nother aspect of the storytelling. It brings the story that you've written to life.
Yeah. So the story goes. This guy is I came up with this storyline. It was based on what you call a hero's journey. It's the same story as the Odyssey, or I just read a book called The Alchemist, and there's 1,000 stories based on the hero's journey. And so I thought that'd be the way to go. That's the idea for something like this, a story like this. But we really pulled it out of the air and created a story from scratch, just like you would write a song with a story in it. We created the whole album story that way, and I just I just imagined what it would be like for and then what you do is you definitely pull from your own experience and from stories that you've heard from on the road. Well, not necessarily on the road, but when you get together with other musicians, and I'm one of the luckiest guys on the planet, and a big shout out to the legendary rhythm and blues cruise, because I've been fortunate enough to go on many legendary rhythm and blues cruises, and I've met more of my, you know, my heroes, and got to sit down and talk to so many musicians with so many different experiences and backgrounds and stories, and the way their careers went, and a lot of really great stories to tell. So
Mhm.
I just kind of thought about how this how this would go. It's total fiction. The story's not about me, but there's a little bit of me in it. There's a little bit of everybody that I've ever heard of in it. That does what we do.
Sure. I like the song I got burned. Been there a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah, no good blues story would be complete without one of those.
Been there a couple times. Those are the stories that could make your hair stand up. Really, that happened? Really, that happened?
There was only one lyrics change on the whole album, and Bruce Iglauer is really a hands-on guy. He likes to be involved in the process, and he makes sure that the songs are good. Anybody who's going to record on that label's the material's got to hold up, and so you got to run things by him. Anyway, when you heard, I didn't get a lot of pushback on hardly any of the music or the lyrics, and he seemed to be enjoying it as we were delivering it. And then it got to that song, and the original line was at the end, "If we don't get paid, I'm going to burn this mother down." And he said he thought that was a little too strong and maybe a little too violent. So I changed it to "tear this mother down," and that got me by. So
I know. Okay, I
I
can't
think
tell
he
the
was
whole.
right, by the way. I think it was a better lyric. I think it was better.
It's a great lyric. It's a great lyric, and just I can't tell the whole story, but I remember walking in to get paid and waiting and telling some of the male band members, if I don't come back in 5 minutes, you come in.
Hey man, the old guys used to carry guns.
Yeah, they did.
All the old blues guys, and I'm not going to mention names, but
Sure.
they would have a briefcase. The money went, and in that briefcase was a gun, just in case, because they went in the office to get paid. They'd have that briefcase sitting there on their lap, and then if there was any chance of not getting paid, I'm sure those guns have come out a few times, and
I'm sure they have.
we've always, we've had good luck. We've never really gotten burned, but there were a couple of times when it came up short, or for a fact that you had, how it works. You have a guarantee, and then over so many tickets sold, there's a bonus or a percentage, and man, it is hard to make that percentage. It's hard to get that bonus, because I almost always go, well, you just got really close to making the bonus this time, but not quite.
I know.
And then in order to, and you either got to call them a liar, or you got to have some kind of proof that there was more people. But sometimes you looked out there and go, man, I don't see how they could have had any more people in this place.
Sure. Sure.
So they got to be cheating. So that happens once in a while, but we always have gotten paid. And yeah, but I've been involved in things where not everybody got paid.
Sure. And thank you for sharing this and speaking this truth, because this is an aspect about the business that maybe some of our listeners don't realize, how hard people work, to go on tour, sleepless nights, not eating great food, sometimes, stress on our bodies, but still standing there and putting out the best show that we can, because that's, we love our fans, and we love the people that are, coming to the show, and they're waiting to see Tommy. They're waiting to see who we love. And so we want to give our best always. And so it's kind of like, we don't let that side of the business show when we walk on that stage, and that is a true professional.
Yeah, you have to, you can't take it out on the audience. They bought a ticket, And then if 5 people bought tickets, they're getting the show.
That's right.
They're getting the show that we have in us that night. And, you know, that's happened. There's been times when the Schmengi rule was in effect.
I'd like
There's
to,
more people on stage than there were in the crowd.
yeah. Yeah, I'd like to switch gears and I'd like to ask you if you could, give some advice for people who are just starting in the business or have been in the business for a while, just some advice about either creating an album, whatever you choose, going on tour, just some advice for people in the business.
Yeah, the advice, I don't really know what to tell people these days because it was different for me. The way I came up, the whole business was different. There were still record stores around when I was in, and there was no internet.
Yeah,
I was there, man. We were out doing gigs, and we would make up. We had a physical mailing list, an actual snail mail list, and people would give us their mailing address, and we would send them a calendar of our dates. And Randy would, her and I have been working together for many years, and he was in charge of the calendar, and he would have it printed up and little cards with 2 months worth of shows on it, and we'd put a stamp on every one of those and take it to them, bulk mail, send it out, and so the way we. But the one thing I think I will say that probably never changes is I would take any gig, any chance to play for anybody for any amount of money at first, for free if necessary, for low money. You do whatever you can to get your act in front of people, And I think it's great that nowadays new acts have the advantage of being able to put stuff on the internet.
That's right. You can be live in front of 5,000 people. If just in seconds.
Yeah, and that I am not that strong on. I still haven't switched my brain over completely to that. I know about it. I know how it works for the most part. And believe me, we try so hard to keep up, once again, my son Skylar, who I've mentioned before, does social media, tasks for me because he's really good at it and understands it. He books a nightclub in Eugene, Oregon called the Wow Hall. He used to book a place called Sessions, and he's the talent buyer, and he's responsible for booking these shows and promoting the shows. And so he's gotten really good at social media. So I just hand that over to him and pay him a few bucks a month to take that on for me. But I understand what's going on, and there's no getting out of it. You have to create content. You have to give them something to work with, And
content is king.
And what I would love to do if I could figure out a way is to be able to record video, get good quality video of our shows, 2-3 times a week at least when we're on the road. Get in the best venues and the best sound and record as many shows as possible, and then just dish that stuff out one song at a time. But it's really, we can't bring a big entourage and a whole bunch of. I can't afford to bring a videographer.
Sure, of course.
And you can't always count on getting good audio at the venues. It's a process, and they got to have the right gear. And there's ways to do it. It's easier now than it used to be, and we do get them from time to time. But if I was going to do anything else right now, I would record every show that I can, take all the best songs, the best performances, and pop them out there on social media, on Facebook and YouTube, and that's one area that I think that we are falling down on a little bit. We could be a little better at that, but again, the point is that you have that vehicle now, where when we started out, we didn't have that. We could only play to the people in our town.
Yeah.
You only play where you live. If you were lucky, you could get a few people in a bar or a nightclub somewhere and play for them, or get an opening act spot playing for somebody in your town, because nobody's going to give you a gig on the road where nobody knows who you are. They don't put you on shows for fun. They put you on shows to sell tickets.
That's
So
right.
if your band's going to sell a few tickets, you might have a shot at getting on that show. So
Mhm.
it's always the struggle, the catch-22. You can't get a gig because you don't have any fans, but you can't get any fans until you have some gigs. It's really
Sure.
tricky.
It is tricky. I love the points that you make. One is, by putting those stamps on, you have to put the work in. Nobody's going to discover you.
Yeah.
Two, put yourself out there. Like Tommy said, he took gigs and he played and he played and played. You're going to get seasoned. You're going to get seen in front of people. That's going to put you in the different circles that I talked about earlier. And then, social media and video, get good footage, quality. Make sure what you put out is quality and a good representation of you. So you had some really good points, Tommy. And so you're going to be heading out on tour, and so where are you going to be playing next? So our friends can drop by and see you.
That's a good question. Let me see. I do know what's going on in the near future, and that is the first thing we're doing is flying to Colorado, playing in Colorado Springs. We're doing a makeup gig. I had to bail out of a show at the end of the tour. They got laryngitis and in Denver, and the next night we're supposed to be Colorado Springs, and my voice, I could not sing or talk. And
it's the altitude too. The altitude in Colorado can have some effects on your voice.
That's true. And I don't, all I knew was that I couldn't sing hardly. I could barely sing while we were doing our show in Denver. And I thought, as much as I want to play Colorado Springs, because it's a great room, it's the Stargazer Theater, and it's a great audience for the blues. And it's one of our favorite gigs in the country. And I really didn't want to have to cancel, but they were very cool about it. We rescheduled. So this is our makeup date. So we're going to fly in and out of Colorado, play that one show. And that is on not this weekend, but the following weekend. I think it's going to be March 4th. And then we fly back home to the Bay and play in Vallejo.
Okay.
At the Empress Theater. And then there's some rehearsals going on with me and Deanna and the band up in the Bay. And Randy's daughter's getting married, and there's going to be a wedding.
Nice. How cool is that?
And she's a kid. I've known her since she was born, and she's like one of my kids. And so we're excited about that. And then on the following weekend, we play Redwood City at Club Fox. And then we get to go, and I get to team up with one of my biggest influences and one of my best, one of the people I admire most and like the most out there in the world. And that's the great Elvin Bishop.
Oh, cool.
Elvin Bishop and I do a show every year at the Crest Theater in Sacramento. So
nice.
when we doing our Crest Theater show, they call it, there's a name for that show that I can forget what they call it, but it's Elvin headlining and us opening, and that'll be great. And then we fly to the Midwest and start a tour in Ohio and run around the country for a while and make our way all the way back. Eventually, we'll be coming through after touring around. We'll be heading west again, and we'll make the closest thing to you and folks here is the Pappy and Harriet's gig in what's that? Pioneer Town.
Oh yeah, that's not too far. Yeah.
Yeah, and just before that, Phoenix, I think it is. Yeah. And so
you're busy. You are busy. 30-year anniversary, and we're gonna. Anything else you'd like to say before we head out?
Just let me think. Just well, it's. I appreciate you having me on your show,
Oh,
and as far as if anybody's looking for ways to, what you should be doing to try to, um, make a name for yourself in this business, just do whatever Bridget's doing. She's doing everything right.
oh,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, you
you
are.
got my
And
in my day.
Yeah, and your
Made
record
my
is
day.
really good. It's been a while. It's been a couple of years now, I think, since you handed it off to me. But I really enjoyed it. It was really great, and great production, great songs, and you performed really well. And I
You.
recommend it. And I think they could watch you. You could learn a few things.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna also just say one of my favorite lyrics from your album, "A Blues Man Came to Town," and then we're gonna end with with the song "Somewhere." But this lyric was, "I want to go back home" is the title of the song. And I love this line. It's such the chick in me, okay? "I got a ring in my pocket and a question on my mind." That was a great line. I was like, whoa.
I just remembered one thing I do want to mention, and if in the name of shameless promotion,
Do it.
we were just nominated for 6 Blues Music Awards.
That's right.
And
6.
I'm really excited about that because this is not the first time I've been nominated for an award. I've won a couple over the years, and that means a lot to me. It really does. But I was not expecting to get 6 nominations.
Wow.
That's a big deal to all of us in the band and everybody in my camp. And and I just want to say, if you are a member of the Blues Foundation, give the record a listen. And if you feel that it deserves voting for in any of those categories, we'd appreciate that. But support the Blues Foundation. If you're not a member, you'll need to be a member in order to vote. So it's a really worthy cause. They took care of a lot of people during the pandemic. They took care of musicians through their foundations, and they operate a blues music museum in Memphis, Tennessee, year round, and they support music like this all over the world. They bring in the IBC, the International Blues Challenge. Have you been to that yet?
Yes, I went 3 years pre-pandemic. Yes.
Cool. Yeah, it's a great, man, it's amazing. Everybody in the blues winds up at that event. And so they sponsor all of that. They sponsor the Blues Awards, and the Blues Foundation is worth a membership. And so anyway, just thought I'd drop that on you guys. Please.
I think that's great.
We would like to walk away in Memphis this time with an award or two. It feels good.
I mean, I definitely think you're going to be getting a few or 2 or more. 6. Wow.
I hope I'll be happy with any one of those, but anyway, that's it. So it's great talking to you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all the love and that you put out in your music and your spirit and your soul, and 30 years of magnificent music. 30 years.
Man, who'd have thunk it? All right, Bridget, you take care of yourself.
Thank you. Blessings to you. Say goodbye to everybody, and we will see you later. We're gonna play one of Tommy's songs somewhere, heading out, and so enjoy the rest of your evening. And sharing is caring, so please hit the love button and also share this video so people can hear more of Tommy's music. Blessings to you all, and toodles. Good night.
Good night.
Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, a young man listens to the night. Way out here in the country, the moon and stars are the only light. He takes his rest when he can, because soon the morning comes and every day is like the last until it's done. His heart is open ride, oh, how a train. Other places and other faces where nobody knows his name. It's in his head, man, it's just a dream. All he knows, he's gotta stay. But even a poor boy's dream might come true one of these days. His heart is open, big and wide, like this old countryside. And way up high, where the eagle flies, man, that's where his spirit lies. Oh, yeah. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, a young man listens to the night. We're out here in the country, the moon and stars are the only light. He takes his rest when he can. Soon the morning comes, and every day is like the last until it's done. I say every day is like the last until it's done.
Yeah.